We are super excited to get to our next guest for a wide-ranging conversation on the markets, AI, bubble fears, China, venture capital, policy, and so much more. He's got his glasses, the famous red glasses. Brad Gerstner is here, founder and CEO of Altimeter Capital, of course, a leading tech investment firm with notable investments in Meta, Nvidia, Snowflake, Uber, Amazon, Microsoft, and others. Brad, welcome, welcome, welcome.
It's great to be here.
You're in town for the big Robinhood conference. Thank you for joining us.
Amazing organization. You know, I live in, obviously, Silicon Valley, but what Paul Tudor Jones and that group has done to relieve poverty over 40 years in New York, had an event last night, over $500 million announced for their new endowment. So it's great. They have an investment conference today. I look forward to talking on it.
So here's the big question. I imagine the word bubble is going to be raised at this conference multiple times, if it hasn't already last night. Are we in one? If we are, where are we?
You mean AI or
AI, some kind of economic bubble, market bubble? I don't know what you think it is. And I will say, you mentioned Paul Tudor Jones. He was on our air about a week and a half ago now, and he said he thought we were in some kind of bubble, and he put us on a comparable basis. He thought of October of 1999, which was an interesting moment because the market still had 40% to go.
Right. That's right. Well, first, you rarely have a bubble when the hottest book in New York is about a stock market crash, and everybody who comes on the show talks about a bubble.
There's a bubble in bubbles.
Howard Marks said, it's too early because everybody's talking about a bubble. If you look at multiples as an example, you called out Bernstein yesterday. I thought was great. He was talking about 50 times trailing PE for Nvidia. It's 25 to 30 times on a forward PE. That's not the stuff that bubbles are generally made of. But certainly the further and further you go out on the risk curve, Andrew, you will find things that make you scratch your head. You say, I wouldn't have done that deal. And there are going to be meme stocks that certainly, have no revenue, Becky, and, in the quantum space or whatever, where you say that valuation doesn't make any sense. But we have this all the time. The bigger question is this. Is the phase shift associated with AI? Is the transformation of all computing with now computer-assisted intelligence, is it as big as the internet? And I would argue that it's as big as the internet. And if you spend all your time hand-wringing, like many people did in 2001 and 2002 about the internet, saying, I told you so, they missed the next 20 years of compounding in Amazon, in Google, and all these big winners.
By the way, I would agree with you in that I think AI is going to change the world. It's a generational shift for all of us. The question is, could there be a hiccup along the way? And what does that hiccup look like in terms of right now, when you say to yourself, the upside in this marketplace today versus the downside? We had an analyst on earlier this morning who said, you know what? It's going to be hard to reach materially higher numbers right now. But she kind of thought, could the market be off 5 or 10%? She said that didn't seem totally unreasonable to her.
We've had two 25% drawdowns in Nvidia this year.
Right.
Remember the DeepSeek moment? Stock was down 25%. And then on the tariff moment, the stock got down to $92 a share. It's at 180 today. So volatility is the name of the game for two reasons. Number one, we have a president that's trying to reset global trade policy, national industrial policy in the middle of a super cycle. So that's just a lot of uncertainty. So I think that's healthy in a market, right? It's not straight up and to the right. We've had a lot of drawdowns this year. And if you look at these stocks and you say to me, does it make sense that Nvidia is up 35%, given that their top line has grown way faster than 50%? The answer is yes. It's cheaper today than when the stock was $200 a share.
But here's the real trick, and that is, we can tell the difference between some crazy meme stock or a new crypto junk coin that we've never heard of and Nvidia, right? But how do you as an investor find those gradations in the middle? How do you determine what's real, what's not, when it's not so extreme?
I think it's a great question, Becky. If you look at how on the venture capital side of things, you see this barbell approach, and we're following it as well, right? We're really large investors in OpenAI, clear breakout market winners. On the other hand, we're investing in, very small companies where we're buying 10 to 20% of the company. In the middle are these inflection growth assets, really high valuations, but haven't yet proven that they're the multi-year compounder. There are over 1,000 of those in Silicon Valley, over $1 billion that are trying to raise capital right now. That's where I think you're going to see a lot of the chop, a lot of the washing out. You'll also see that in the public markets, right? This is a moment of peak creative destruction, right? There are winners and there are losers, and that's why we see the volatility. How can Oracle, Joe, be up 25% on earnings? It's a head scratcher when they announce these deals because they're gaining hundreds of billions of market cap in a single morning. You only have that when you have this level of uncertainty about the path forward.
Okay, so let's talk about the certainty that you think you have about the path forward.
Yeah.
So you would say, who are going to be the ultimate winners in all this right now?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think on the
Nvidia, you think, is obviously a winner. Would you touch an AMD? Would you touch a Broadcom?
Sure, we own Broadcom, we've owned AMD. What I would say is if you go back to 2022, and I showed this graphic on the podcast recently, in 2022, right, only 2.5 years ago, Andrew, AMD and Nvidia had the same revenue. Yeah. This year, AMD will do just over $30 billion, and Nvidia will do $225 billion. 100% of the incremental market share to AI basically has gone to Nvidia. Right. AMD missed the wave. But to Lisa's credit, she raised her hand and said, I'm betting the farm. I'm going to give 10% of my company to OpenAI, and I'm going to bet that the MI450 is going to work and it's going to be competitive with Nvidia. That's not exactly the position of strength that you want to be coming at it, but it's also a recognition. Lisa said we're in year 2 of a 10-year super cycle to build out the compute in America. If you're not on the AI wave, then you're not going to participate in all that upside.
When you think about the big LLMs, OpenAI at least clearly seems like they're going to be a winner. Google, I don't know where you think Anthropic lands in all of this. I know you own Meta. Yep. They're trying to play this game, but playing in an open source way. Does that work?
Yeah, so let's bucket it into consumer and enterprise. I think that's the easiest way. On the consumer side, I've invested in 3 or 4 super cycles now, the internet super cycle, the social, mobile, et cetera. The winner tends to be winner take most, right? So Google had a lot of competitors, 20 competitors in search. They all have pretty good technologies, but Google consumed 98% of all the upside ever associated with search. Meta in the case of social, Apple obviously with the App Store. I think ChatGPT at well over 1.5 billion monthly users, over 800 million weekly users, and what most people don't talk about is the engagement. Engagement is going up. So if you look at the cohorts under those numbers, they're extraordinary. And so I think they're breakaway now in consumer. Can Google catch them? I think it's very challenging. Can Meta catch them? I think challenging. Will they build good businesses around AI? Yes. Right? These are money machines, the best businesses in the history of capitalism. They're going nowhere. I'm impressed by what Sundar is doing. I'm also impressed by what Alexander Wang and the team at Meta are doing. But they know how hard it's going to be to catch up in consumer. On the enterprise side, this is going to be a free-for-all. Nobody's going away. Microsoft, Amazon, Google, Meta, they're all, Anthropic is probably one of the market leaders in enterprise today, certainly with Claude Code and the work they're doing with Cursor. So there are going to be a lot of players that are left in the game, but those that we just mentioned, those are going to be in the hunt. Think about the 50 companies that come after them. It's getting harder and harder to raise funding if you're the next foundation model. Right? If you're the next application to do coding. I think the market's sorting itself out pretty quickly into the market leaders.